And it's just the engagement. Like, I already have this prior knowledge. I already have this understanding. So this is now how it relates to the skill that Ms. Johnson is trying to teach me. I've never gotten like, oh, that's from the Monday meeting board. I've never gotten that response, but I definitely get the increased engagement, the confidence behind, okay, well, I already know this, so how do I tie this into what she's trying to teach me?
Teachers have got to be culturally responsive in their instruction, because students come into our classrooms with these background knowledges, these communities. We've got to sustain the communities that they came from and build on that. We have a curriculum that we're supposed to teach, but yes, we have to engage that background knowledge they come in with. I know back when I was in the classroom, culturally responsive teaching was, I didn't really know that was the label I was doing, but I just know that it works because I've seen students come in and they're like, I want to talk about, a lot of my black males wanted to read a story that was about black males, and they'd always say, I'm sick of reading about slavery, I want to read about us, and they could never word it right, but they wanted to read about them being in power. And so that's when I knew that it was important to pull in who they are and let them see themselves through, I was an English teacher, so through the text that I was using, but it happens in science, let them see themselves as powerful scientists, let them see themselves as powerful historians, and people that look like them and owning their own story and telling their own story too.
Okay, it's important for teachers to be responsive and culturally responsive in their instruction with students, to make sure that students feel like they can bring themselves into your classroom and leverage some of the ideas and concepts they may feel don't parallel your own interests, and really to make it more about student voices and student interests than teacher-led concepts and ideas. It's not necessarily a new practice, but I think that when teachers are more intentional with making sure that that's their goal, that things work a lot smoother. Most obvious examples of seeing culturally responsive teaching really make gains has been once when I got a postcard in the mail from Blue Room, downtown 18th and Vine area in our city, and a student of mine was featured as someone who goes to open mic night, and she'd been sitting in the back of the corner of the room unbeknownst to anyone in the classroom. Her name was Kanisha, and they called her Famous Amos for the rest of the year because I said, Kanisha, is this you in this picture? Will you come up here and give us a poem? And she did, and I remember just the shock of her being surprised that we would be interested in hearing that. And the separation between different forms of scholarship is really kind of alarming, but when you start to leverage how she felt welcomed and how she transformed for a couple of years the people who wanted to be just like her and follow her lead, I could think of no other example. Now, I did that for 15 years in this building, and it kept happening over and over again.
If you have that buy-in with culturally responsiveness in your lessons, then in your relationships, it should be a natural. That's going to make the kids want to learn. They know that you care about them. They know that you don't see them and they're one single story. You include them. You know that their inclusion is important, and their conversation, their input is going to be very important, especially with different cultures. What they say to me is important, and I want them to know that. Every time that kid raises their hand and they're super excited to answer that question, I get Christmas immediately. I don't have to get online. I don't have to go to a mall. There's my Christmas right there as soon as they say, oh, I got it. Oh, man. Now I get it. That's my why.
Important for teachers to be culturally responsive in their instruction because there's actually brain research that shows that when students can connect new information to schema that they're already familiar with, whether that be like a story they know or a cultural representation that they're familiar with, they're actually more likely to retain that information. And so for teachers to understand more about the cultures students are coming from, they're actually helping students more efficiently build brain synapses.
It's always my goal that from the start of the year to the end of the year, my number one goal is to create better human beings. And I tell them that, and I think that that's the way that I do it, is by being responsive to what they need and meeting them as people first. So when I think about culturally responsive teaching, I feel like it's the root of my job. I am an educator, but I'm a person first. And I feel that I have students, but they're people first too. So I think that being a culturally responsive teacher and teaching the kids as kids before I teach them as students is the way that I provide safety. It's the way that I'm going to get them connected to my lessons. It's the way that I'm going to get them to achieve what I want them to achieve. It also shows like the compassion and the heart in what I'm doing and caring about the students as well. It's the last day, we're doing our graduation, and he said he left something in the classroom. Like, oh my goodness, what did you leave in the classroom? Like, you got everything, there's nothing in your desk anymore. He left, so he went back and got it. We all left, we did our clap out, all the kids left, and we did our big teacher celebration at the end, and it's about 30 minutes later, I go back to my class, and there's a letter on my desk. And it said what I did for him. And it's those moments when a student is able to communicate their needs to you and how you met them, that's where it wasn't about that math lesson in February. It was about the daily activities and the daily moments that I took to create that for him. And he had said that I had inspired him to be a writer and that he thinks that that's what he wants to do in life. And that was like a moment that just really made me realize that the work is so important, but that the work is about the people, definitely.